Hello there Scapers, my name is Xenovilis and welcome to episode 8 of one of the most popular series on this channel, if I'm going to be completely honest. It is Road to 1 Bill from the Grand Exchange. The reason it's so popular, in my opinion, is because I am very bad at it. And because I'm very bad at it, there is a lot of room for improvement, and I guess you guys can join me in my journey of self-improvement from zero to hero, from nils to bills, from killing cows to owning a party hat set. Who am I kidding? A party hat set is like a 50 bill right now, something like that, between 10 and 50 bill, something absolutely crazy. Anyway, we are veering very much off topic right here, so let's get back on topic. As a reminder, what is the objective of this series? Well, it's to make one bill by just buying and selling on the G, using legit methods and recording everything, including losses, of which there are a lot. And this particular episode was meant to be sort of part 2 of a trilogy where I tried to catch up after a long break between the last, I guess, episode 6. Episode 7 was out in July and this was meant to be out a few days after that. Well, it's been like 2.5 months since that. But anyway, it's finally here and it's mainly gonna cover the month of March this year. So the previous episode covered everything up until February this year. This episode's gonna cover everything in March because I did a ton of merching and flipping in March. It's also gonna cover a little bit of the other months, but mainly March. And boy, is there a lot to show in this episode, so let's get started without further ado. What was the total in the previous episode? 731 mil. So I need about 270 mil to get to my target and finish off the series. Will I be able to get there? Well, let's have a look. So what I like to do is to show all my flips, all my margin checking flips that I do, just to see the spread and whether it's actually viable to flip certain items or merge certain items. Well, not really much, but more flip. And as you can see, there's a massive variety of stuff here. Some are my personal favorites, such as the classic traditional Great Gunkan, Mechanized Chomper, Scrimshaws. Those are like my bread and butter. If you watched my previous episodes, you would know that. And I've also tried out a few new things, especially if you realized you will see a few treasure trail items there, and that is gonna form a big part of this episode, but mainly also the next episode in terms of how that's going to affect it. Obviously that's to do with the luck rework, which was out in March this year as well, the far end of March. And yeah, just a 1.758 mil loss from flipping all this, so that's not too bad. I didn't sort of flip any high value items. That loss would have been a lot higher if I had, but yeah, not too bad to start things off. So yeah, let's kick things off with a classic Zen merch, the kind that's completely random and a complete fluke, but also the kind that takes absolutely forever. You might have noticed in some of my videos, if you look at the chat box, you will have seen Grand Exchange sell offers updating for blue dragonhide chaps. That's because they took months and months and months to sell, and that's the kind of, I guess, merch that I really like. Not the kind of merch that requires a lot of thought, because I don't have too much of the stuff required between my ears, although I did get the brains pet recently, so hey, you can't say that anymore. Maybe in the future episodes that will change. But anyway, what I'm trying to say is the reason I bought a ton of these was firstly because back in about November 2016, my friend and great PVMer, Raphael G, actually suggested that I buy blue dragonhide chaps. Or was it him? I don't remember. Anyway, either him or someone else suggested that I buy blue dragonhide chaps for evasive and protective components to make some perk or something, and I decided to buy it. Having looked at the margins, I was like, okay, I definitely gotta merge these. They are in reasonable demand and supply, so that won't be a problem. And I decided to buy 20k of them. That took ages in itself, but selling them took absolutely forever. The reason being that I don't think they ever got above about 4k at most, and so selling it at 5k was a bit of a struggle. It's basically trying to capture the one person every 20 to 50 sales. So there'll be one person who wants to insta buy it, so they will buy it at like 100k each or whatever, way beyond the Grand Exchange guide price. And that's the only type of person I would be able to capture with a 5k sort of sell price. Not the only type, but mostly the only type. I don't know exactly how the GU works, but essentially what I'm trying to say is I probably would have been better off selling it for about 4k. And if you look at the Grand Exchange history as well, the Blue Dragon hide chaps have constantly been going up and down, so they are a reasonable item if you just want to buy them when they hit their bottom price and then sell them when they're rising. But essentially the profit margins, the spread was huge, almost a plus 95% profit margin, almost double the initial investment. I kept a few for myself to get those components and decided to sell the rest, so plus 38.7 mil, very nice indeed to kick things off. I sold them about end of March, so yeah, almost a year and a half between buying and selling. Shows that this was definitely not a short-term merge at all. Okay, don't worry guys, I won't take that long for each transaction, but that one was quite interesting. This one is something that you guys might know very well by now. It's a classic Great Gunkan flip, so without having to repeat myself too much as I've done in the previous episodes, Great Gunkan is a fantastic piece of food that not many people know about. It is the highest healing food in the game, I believe, per bite, and yeah, I decided to buy a ton and then sell them off. Unfortunately, the margin itself wasn't great, but because I bought so many, I was able to get a reasonable profit of 7.8 mil out of it. I don't remember how long it took, but I don't think it took too long, maybe a few weeks at most, and a profit margin of plus 20.6% is actually pretty decent for these. The 15,972 you see at the bottom is how much of what I bought I actually ended up selling, because obviously I kept a few for myself for PVM purposes, and yeah, we're up to 45 mil already. Wow, that's good, isn't it? Next we have another classic flip, the mechanized Chomper. So again, I've done this several times in the past. The profit margin is also fairly similar. It's a steady demand, steady supply item, so the profit margin is slightly higher than sort of a high demand, high supply item, but at the same time it's not low demand and low supply where the profit margin is huge. So wherever the profit margin is sort of in the middle, you can buy and sell reasonably quickly. If the profit margin is very low, you can buy and sell very quickly. If the profit margin is very high, you can buy and sell very slowly. So that's the general idea behind them. It's not a hard and fast rule, it's just a generalization. And this time it worked out pretty well. Again, I kept a few for myself, which is why I only sold off 10,250 of what I bought, and 15 mil was made, which is actually very nice, because I guess this is one item that people, when they buy, they are kind of desperate to buy. One of the few places in high level bossing it's actually used is at AOD next, and you probably need a Chinner in your team for that to kill the minions off. That's one of the few popular ways to use these mechanized Chompers, and yeah, because of that desperation the profit margin is reasonably high, and because I bought a ton at the same time, obviously the profit I made was 15 mil, which is good, and we're up to 60 mil now, which is awesome. It's a great start to the episode, guys. Let's see how long we can keep this up. So next up we have Nightmare Gauntlets. This was out in November last year, almost 11 months ago now. And yeah, I mean, I think I showed me making a loss on these in the previous episode, I'm not sure, but I decided that later on I would try and flip them. So firstly, what I did was thinking there would be a breakaway success and they would increase in price as time went on. I decided to buy a ton. Unfortunately, they crashed massively, so I made a massive loss. But later on, when the prices stabilized, I decided to just flip them normally without trying to do any merges or anything that requires thinking. So just flip them, and thankfully I made a bit of profit from flipping them. So that was all this was, a generic flip, nothing too fancy, and 10.26 mil made. Hey, that's not bad. 16.8% profit margin, and like I mentioned earlier, it's slightly lower profit margin just because it's a low supply, low demand item compared to some of the other items, and it's also a high value item, so you'd expect the profit margin to be lower. And next we have Onixes. So the reason I bought 30 was obviously to make Luck of the Dwarves, and you might have seen my luck rework video where I showed you what I did to prepare for it, which wasn't very much, but on the day I still managed to make quite a bit of money. But I'm not going to spoil that. If you do want to see it, make sure you look for it in my channel. I might even have a card on screen right now, so you can click on that. But anyway, 6.85 mil made. made just by flipping them. I was going to make 30, but then I decided I would have needed bills and bills to actually collect enough treasure doll items for fortunate components to actually make 30 on day of release. So yeah, that was a bummer. But yeah, I mean, I sold 24 of the 30 I bought, so made a bit of profit there. 6.8 mil, not too bad. 10.6% profit margin, because at this point in time people were buying and selling them in huge quantities, so you couldn't really get a big profit margin. This was just before the luck rework, I believe. Next we have one of the classics again, the scrimshaws. This time it's a scrimshaw vampirism. I forgot to actually screenshot the selling of these, but I did actually flip them and I sold them at the ceiling, which was 3 mil. So yeah, 11.1% profit margin, 3 mil made. Nothing too extravagant, nothing too shabby, just a consistent, dependable moneymaker here. Especially if you follow things like, I don't know, the Araxor Pass 2 and 3, that's when people buy them a lot. And if you do want to merch them, your merching cycle is about 8 to 10 days every time 2-3 comes along. So at the start of 2-3, I guess it's in high demand. At the end of 2-3 it's in low demand, so that will be your sort of selling and buying cycle if you want to look into it that much. But alternatively, you could just go with the profit margins that you have by just buying and selling instantly and just go by that, and that's what I did here. And yeah, nothing more to say. It's one of my favorite items to flip. Any of the main scrimshaws, elements, cruelty or vampirism. And talking of cruelty, hey, I have Cruelty right here. Now the profit margin here was actually very low, which is probably the norm, to be honest. If you try and sell it for a higher price, I mean, if you try and force a bigger profit margin, you'll find it very, very difficult to sell unless you get lucky. So this was a case of actually just wanting to buy everything quickly and sell everything quickly. And again, I forgot to actually screenshot when I bought these, but as you can see, the price I actually sold them at was this insta buy price. So the price I bought them at must have been the insta sell price when I did my profit margin checking, and using that I have made 2 mil. Nothing too extravagant, but just a generic flip. Next we have the Blood Nihil pouches. Now this guy caused me a lot of pain and heartache, to be honest. Wait, never mind. Not this version of Zen's adventures with the Nihil pouches anyway, but in previous versions of Zen's adventures with Nihil pouch flipping, which you can see in some of the previous episodes of this series, I have had some serious troubles with them as well as serious profits. So yeah, it's been a bit of a up and down roller coaster ride with these, but this particular instance wasn't too bad. I was just flipping them for a small profit margin, buying it quickly and selling it quickly, and I think I did it in about 2 or 3 weeks, which is pretty quick for me, having bought so many as well. So it's not exactly a massively high demand and high supply item, but it's not too low either. So I just wanted to make a little bit of money. Only made 3 mil, profit margin of 10%, but you know, I don't mind, that's alright. And yeah, generally these prices don't change much unless there's some big event. I mean, recently they increased quite a bit. I'm not too sure why, but might have been because of the Sophanum Slayer dungeon creatures, but I don't know, I have no idea. And the point is, they are very dependable. Another of my sort of list of dependable flips. So yeah, nothing much more to say. I kept a few for myself as well for Araxor, and we are up to 85 mil now, which is awesome. Almost there, guys, almost there. Okay, so I told you there would be a big fail coming, and surprise, surprise, there is. So a little backstory to this. This is exactly what you should not do. I bought the Araxite Pheromones about a year before I actually sold them. Yeah, not good at all. So that was number one. Number two was that I bought the 75 Araxite Pheromones at 2.9 mil each in April 2016, I believe, which was about a 2-year high, and I have no idea why I did this. I mean, in hindsight it's easy to criticize, but I think I was thinking it would go up even more and I'd just sell it off really quickly. What actually ended up happening is that because I'm so slow with things, it had dropped, and it just kept dropping very slowly but surely. And a few months later I decided to buy 20 more, about a mil less than what I bought the first 75 at, and I thought to myself, okay, they're bound to go up at some point, but nope. I was like, enough is enough. I have held on to these for far too long. I'm just going to sell them because at that point I think I needed cash desperately, and I was like, okay, what's there lots of in my bank that I don't need? Oh, pheromones. I never use pheromones. I don't do enough Feraxor in a single day to use pheromones. So I decided to sell 100, and only after actually analysing it and editing this video did I realise I lost 95 mil in this. So that's a single worst flip or merch, whatever you want to call it, in this entire series, I believe. To date anyway. There might be something worse in the future, and boy do I think there is. I don't want to look into that. Oh god, oh dear, oh jeez. Sorry, that was like a apocalyptic vision moment. But anyway, back to the present. Yeah, I think I just put it in my bank and forgot about it because it was in my PVM tab, and I just kept getting Araxel pheromones from doing Araxel. And yeah, I just forgot about it, which I shouldn't have done. I should have kept tracking it. Not that the price ever really got up, it's still going down, but I should have sold it immediately. I shouldn't have waited, is what I'm trying to say, because it's been decreasing steadily. So yeah, I guess I was unlucky in one respect, but waiting a year to sell them off doesn't make sense either. And I guess you could say I could have been a bit more patient. I have been patient. 1 year is a long time, and I really needed the money at the time. If I was a little bit more patient, maybe some miracle would have happened and it would have gone up in price, but I think that money was better used by selling it off and just taking those losses, but getting that money back and being able to use that money into something else which actually frees it up, instead of relying on chance for the price of that to go up and then selling it whenever it went up, if it went up at all. So yeah, minus 36.8% profit margin. I wouldn't look too much into it. I don't think anyone who's half intelligent or who half cares about merching would even think of doing what I did here. But enough rambling, and we come to the very final trade in this episode. What is it going to be? You guessed it, it is making luck of the dwarves. So although it's not directly through the GE, I did buy all the stuff from the GE, I made all the stuff myself, and I sold the stuff back to the GE. So from that point of view, I guess it was, and I do want to include it for that reason. And here's a table that I got from my luck rework video, which I've been talking about earlier, and it summarizes basically what happened. So I bought 30 Onixes, sold back 23 of them. Actually, I sold back 24 of them, not 23, as you saw in my previous trade. But I put 23 here because I think I must have bought back one of these Onixes at some point, which I didn't screenshot. And for the purposes of balancing both sides of the equation, I bought 8 Onixes, made all of them into either alchemical Onixes or luck of the dwarves, whichever was, in my opinion, more profitable at that period in time. This was all mainly during the course of that particular Monday, the last Monday of March this year, when the luck rework was actually released into the game, and there was a mad rush to buy and sell luck of the dwarves. Man, that was a crazy time. I believe the first few people to actually sell the luck of the dwarves made about 50 mil off each ring. I wasn't the first few people, so the most I made was about 20 something, 28 or something, I don't know, mil from each ring, and that was mainly due to a rookie mistake. I think I forgot to do something before the update, so I had to do that, and that cost me quite a few minutes. But yeah, anyway, overall I did make quite a bit of money. I made 76.7 mil, nowhere near what some other people made. I was only able to make 8 luck of the dwarves due to the amount of cash I had. But if you take away the Onix profit, because I showed that in the previous slide, the profit drops to 69.8 mil, so at least we're back in the green now. Overall, that is 61 mil profit made in this episode. If it wasn't for that 94 mil loss, that number would have been 155 mil profit in this episode, if you discount that Araxite pheromone fail of the previous slide. But anyway, what's done is done. This is the profit I made, and the profit margins were absolutely humongous. So as you saw, I bought 338 treasure trail items because I already had 12 fortunate components. Was it 62? Anyway, I only needed 338 treasure trail items to make 8 alchemical onyxes, and you can see me buying every single one of these and then selling off the rings here. So you can see me selling off each of the 8 rings on the day that luck rework was released, and buying every single treasure trail item that went into making those onyx rings. One of the biggest mistakes I made was that I didn't buy these items with enough time to spare, so I wasn't able to buy them at a lowish price. But the fact that I still managed to make a plus 45% profit despite buying most of these items last minute shows how much some people could have made if they planned their time better, and I'm sure a lot of you did profit from this. So yeah, it feels great to actually have an update like this. I know a few people who made absolute fortunes from this update, and it was indeed an awesome update for many, but there was a lot of controversy at the same time. But anyway, regardless, my total for this episode has now come to 792 mil, which is good, but not as good as I would have wanted. So that puts us at almost 80% of the way there, and in the next episode there will be a ton of trades to do with the luck rework and treasure trail items, so look out for that. But there will also be a massive bombshell which may or may not set me back a little bit, possibly more than just a little bit, but we'll see what happens. Hopefully there's a miracle, a positive miracle, to offset that negative fail. But I'm not going to say any more. Hopefully you guys figure out what that epic fail was. It was another big update of 2017, and yeah, I will try and make that one as soon as possible, but mainly due to real life circumstances I haven't been able to make as many videos as frequently as I would have liked. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this very long and rambly episode. I really enjoyed making it, and I will see you in the next one.